Welcome to our lovely future humans and 5D collective. We have our lovely 1111 portal. As always, ascension energies are more than just amazing, but that's for our emotionally intelligent. You think and you feel with great ease, and that's why you're an inner master who is using growth mindset. And that can be called that mental fitness lifestyle, the wellness lifestyle. What you own is a heart, and so nobody fucks with me, the me plus we of Dr. Daniel Siegel, or the biosphere that Terrio will have talked about. And so you're able to own that which is any kind of environment because you own the sense of self. So you are one whole self, and so you do personal development and personal growth and spiritual growth for those who are also mystics and spiritual, those high priestesses. The unfinished business are the people who do karma. So that's the 0 8-year-old non-metabolized trauma charges. And by the way, I'm attachment trauma educated, but I am not the expert of it all at all. I'll fuck it up and I'll move pseudoscience. But in the meantime, these are the 1111 messages. Then we're going to get to perspectives and stories that are of me. For that which is an inner master is what I get to tell you all about. I have amazing stories of my child self and my grown-up self, and really 45.0 version knows I'm going to help some people like my 8-year-old wanted. Yes, because some people want to live a good life, and so that's where ego like everybody else, but the difference is we know. So ego likes and wants familiarity. Mine does too, my 3-year-old. And this is my way of living. I am not going to change. I don't do it actually that way. I'm not going to try anything else. I will say that I'm committed to my personality patterns, my temperament, and that's why it's a very different story versus the ego familiarity of I'm going to control, and then I'm going to use the dark sides of neuroplasticity, and I'm going to keep on using maladaptive patterns of behavior. And so karma is what I'm talking about. Those individuals, they play out their non-metabolized trauma charges. And as Patrick Tiahan will point out, a good trauma therapist for childhood trauma, the ones who have the hardest of childhoods, why their CPTSD isn't getting better. He explains all about the disturbances of self-organization, and that involves stress, bad stress, attachment, it was relationships. And so yes, breakage with relationships, affect and emotion, and then they don't own the sense of self. So that's why it's a disturbed self-organization. But as Bezel van der Kolk points out, we can't help someone and talk sense to someone because that's not how it works. So the ego of every one of us doesn't die when you're expanding if you have a self. And so you own the sense of self, and therefore they work like a team, and you have an integrated brain, and it's down-regulated. So your inside lights up, the left. So when I was saying I don't want to do the diet, I was like, what the heck? I got curious and laughed at myself because I laughed at the left, and I got curious in a way of like, wow, you really are making a fuss and something that's for our health. So no. And then I had the first 3 days, remember? So you'll know what's going on because that's what happens when you're an inner master. It's called self-mastery. It's why you continuously expand who you are and you don't change, because you're not having an inner critic with that 3-year-old or the teenager version. You're also not denying and cherry picking what you like and don't like. So when you choose to work with professionals, is why science and spirituality come together. You're choosing based on what you do know works. Academia has a bounty full of smart scientist people. So when it comes to a diet, it's a good nutritionist. And it's somebody who also works still with their peers, continues to update. Okay, so smart consumers, that's a stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable ego, self. And that's why we do Dharma, personal development, not unfinished business. And so with Dharma, you complete every year. You're going through that which is more of your flow state. It's really fun, by the way. And so with that, let me show you. The reason you flow is because your sword, your blade, left and right, doesn't trick you, because you have bottom up and up down. So you have a coyote that's actually emotionally intelligent. It's not just soft skills. It's the capacity to self-regulate when you're around any kind of, again, environment. And so our oversoul, our biosphere, our mui, all of it doesn't have to pay us back. And if we're picking up on those who are in 3D, 4D, the pretend inner masters, we know that they are doing unfinished business. And so from experience, mystical shamans, enlightened ones, intuitives, gurus, prophets, all the words here. Maria uses them all because science looks into consciousness too. So like Thomas Campbell points out, the law of everything, we will just all have ways that we will come to the truth. The truth is love. The truth is ease. The truth is that you're a restorative, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating person if you're in our lovely 5D collective. Not because it's a special collective, but I have been talking about 5D since I was a kid because, well, since I found out about 5D and having clairs, I got clairs and I was already downloading as a kid, but the 5D is Christ consciousness, oneness consciousness, and they have been known for navigating a love frequency. So it's to honor Jesus in my case, because I had a good Christian Catholic upbringing, and thanks to Jesus, God, and Holy Spirit, I know how to forgive those who pretend to be inner masters. And then I get to tell you all about how amazing it is when you're able, give me a moment, to have the intelligent mind that can not only emotionally mature consistently, but you enjoy doing more of it. Once you own the personality pattern, so you're a self-master, you're self-led, you will continue to feel and think, and that's why the inner growth mindset has you leading from your heart. And the more depth you can perceive, the more it's amazing to be with like-hearted people who have healthy anger, healthy fear, healthy sadness, healthy surprise, healthy disgust, and healthy happiness. Because by anchoring in our ventral energy, we're always invigorated. And in fact, the breakthrough energy that comes from dissolving limited consciousness, beliefs / thoughts and emotions / feelings, that's what's invigorating. And it gives this energetic boost. And I like to share, it's full of the energy of the breath of life and love. And so this is where, well, Dr. Daniel Siegel, when I learned from him about how invigorating integrated brain is, what I'm telling you right now is those who are always doing it, that's why we don't call it post-traumatic growth. When there are themes on our lovely planet, the themes involve expansion of a way that you will have thought your life could have gone, or that you will have thought relationships will have gone. And because you're not lost in a story, so narratives distance people from their mindful, intentional living, is where you're like, wow, I have 24 hours every day. I'm a creature of habit. Okay, so every 24 hours, I'm choosing what I'm going to make part of my habit. So like, I like to at least learn some new things from those smart academics when it comes to personal development, attachment trauma. For the mysticism, no, because I'm in communion. So they actually nudge me, the ascended masters, the lovely guides, all of it, like if they want. So for example, I've had a couple downloads, messages, for those of you who care to understand the timeline. We are over the biggest of the humps. We're in. It's happening. It was already happening a while back, but there was a second situation that I knew we were going to be faced with, and I didn't know what it would look like, because the first time that I did, I wasn't certain either, but that was when, so I was broken free personally from the 4D bandwidth. It was definitely something that lasted a bit longer than would have been nice for it to last. So instead, this second hit, quote unquote, is a lot better than that one was. And I'm keeping it vague on purpose, just because there's no need to talk about timeline in a very accurate and specific way, due to the fact that that spreads rumors around, and plus we don't have really proof for any of this. The mystic spiritual community who understands this, we're not really concerned with specifics in the way of words, because we're not looking for perfect little boxes. So like when I presented to a couple of mystics what we were going to be facing, we had two groups of people. One group was living it with this entire perceiving terror. After it was like very, we're gonna, and I was like, okay, that's not what I'm perceiving. I'm all excited and happy. And then I saw what happened, and I was like, wait a minute, this is confusing now, you know. And so I had time to settle in with it and understand. And that's why I was saying the breakthrough energy comes because you are an inner master. So you have thoughts and feelings that you are able to move and expand from. Those who instead say, I'm going to do it my way, they put their foot down, they stay within those habits that are controlling them. They're just not realizing it, because when you don't manage or master your emotions, they manage and then they control you. And because the ego wants a sense of familiarity, but the ego also has a story for itself, the low frequency, which in fact I knew about the 3D, 4D staying and sticking to their story. they're going to grow less vital as time goes by. So like my facade friend. So every time the ascension energies came about, my facade friend and I were consistently sharing moments of life. I'm going to use that story because he was part of it for at least, he had 3 choice points, very significant, very meaningful, if not 4. But the last one that he then said, basically he stuck to what was familiar to him. He didn't move beyond his limiting beliefs of himself. He didn't take ownership of that 0-8-year-old, and he in fact compromised, meaning he didn't choose the life he actually in this lifetime wanted. So he will look to the past with, I learned some things, but I didn't get the life I wanted, with regret. Which when you meet the therapist, they tell you people that will have lived the regret, it's because they will look at the past and what they didn't do, couldn't do. But we accept, respect, and love all people. Those who are intuitives understand that a choice point from that perspective, at least for me, of God, not only Akash Source Anima Mundi, but from God and from the free will word. So when your choice point is, I will continue to grow and keep open-hearted, it's easy to thrive, to flow. That's why you are able to consistently expand more in this lovely sweat lodge without spiraling in hell, but instead you have what is a cocoon that flourishes, and it's not painful. That suffering stuff comes from those who first need to get their embodied brain integrated. Then if they want, they can choose to use a prefrontal, or they can be like the Zen master says, he has laundry when he cries. So once you're connected to your soul, you will know the beauty of that which is the way you can think and feel, and you'll be your own sorcerer because you'll have tapped into your subconscious and conscious. And by being the sun, and this one is both feminine and masculine, you master time, your time, because you master wielding that blade. Again, so when you're doing Dharma every year and you're using thoughts not that are self-critic or outside critic, you don't trick yourself and think there's some competition going on. You use the keen aspects of a coyote. Coyote can be very keen, and actually nature is. The human people who have low frequency give the conniving angles, which by the way is great that they're out there, but that's not actually how the world works. Meaning that at times things just randomly happen. The people who bring in the low frequency and the story and the ta-ta are the ones who are living life from that actual place where they feel like anything is about to get them, which is the survival mode, which is not necessary since we're not living out in nature with the bears. So the survival mode and the ego have a purpose, yes, and a mystical shaman will know how to wield every single bit of it, and will remember that gatherers and hunters were a team and are still a team. So the only ones who make it into a competition are the ones who are not on a journey to become their inner master. Okay, so while when you will have mastered time, you will have mastered being able to sit in silence within yourself while thinking and feeling. Your chakras, they're all aligned, and so we are expanding our 8th and 9th. The acceleration isn't quick and done. It's actually an empowered feminine with her own empowered masculine. This is people. You become your own tree of life, and so like a feminine and masculine, you will know as an empowered one that there's no curse. In fact, you don't sacrifice anything when you are doing Dharma because you're living out your soul's journey, and that is different for everyone. It's not a one box size fits all. And soul is love, right? So at the end of the day, so for example, I'm a jack of all trades when it comes to content creation, mentorship, writing, marketing, psych education stuff, social humanities. Like there's a number of different aspects, humanly speaking, humanities, like with people. Okay, so the wisdom of the owl is that by taming the wind, by taming your thoughts, by taming what you see, by being able to own that which is the sensations, perspective, agency, spa, you own the sense of self. Here's where Pachamama, you get to connect with the mother of all, and she would never eat her children in the horrendous way that those who are still angry at humanity because their faith in humanity was broken and their self-righteous, contemptuous baton is what they're fueled with. Which is not a Lucifer, it's not a demon, it's not a monster, it's an ego that has so much anger pent up that didn't get healed because of that which is a person and more who doesn't choose the path of healing. You can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. And when I hear rage coming out of the mouths of people, sometimes it sounds really amazing, but it's not, because the way they wield their mouths is going to be very clear. Wow, you have monsters in your head. You don't have a luminous anything, and that's why that man playing Russian roulette, all I could perceive, there's no prefrontal. There's just this. That's a weak one. That's a person who doesn't know how to see clearly, so they're tainting shit with that which happened to them. And the ghosts of the past live in their minds, and therefore they're not really listening to ancient ones in the way that a person who is intuitive in 2025 can hear. The ancient ones gave strength, courage. They supported. Spiritual ones supported. Enlightened ones supported humanity to expand. They gave them comfort. They didn't fearmonger them. So the human beings who are of a collective, who are continuing to fearmonger with unhealthy fear and stories that want a good and bad group, well, we know who those people are. They lack the heart to be open enough, but they lack above all intelligence, because they lack the capacity to look themselves in the mirror, hear what just came out of their mouth, look at all the books and all the stuff, and then sit down for a minute and really put a hand, like they would say in Italian, on their conscience and say, why am I speaking the words I'm speaking? What is my message about? How is it that I'm so... They don't do any of this self-reflection to then get their ego out of the blockaged place that it's at. So again, if you're emotionally intelligent, you're mentally intelligent, and you don't actually let me talk to somebody who's not expanding, because they're just going to give you their dogma. Ego's going to give you their dogma. They are pseudo-intellectual, so they'll know how to wield their mouths like the back of their hand. They'll got 20, 30 books, they'll regurgitate, you name it. It'll be splendid, amazing, absence of heart, all assholishness. And no, we're not their healers. So the medicine wheel is one that you access on your own when you are taming your own wind, because you're the seer of that which is all that is, and that's because you're not tainting it with a charge. So the people who have 0-8-year-olds and they're non-metabolized, when ascension energies come out, they don't grow. They play out their unfinished business. Like I said, it's not good or bad. It's called their subconscious and conscious. Their child parts are playing out what happened to them. We got the first 3 years are implicit memory, so they don't even have words. The explicit memory, they don't even bother taking a minute to stop and notice the images that pop up, to stop and notice the feelings that pop up, because they're not connected to their upper world, let alone to the upper world. The spiritual bypassers, which are 3D, 4D, they're using an amygdala because their frontal lobes are flopped down. Their body's in survival mode. They don't know how to regulate, because unless you go to therapy to learn to self-regulate appropriately and effectively, there's bad resilience. Thanks, Dr. Amy Pegan. And I've seen the 4D as they read tarot and everything. It's not funny. It's actually quite unimpressive. And the ones who want to continue with the whole charlatan business and talking about snake oils, those are the other people who I'm like, sure, okay, you know what? Any smart human being knows the difference between a guru, enlightened one, and a cult leader. If you just don't want any spiritual stuff, well, you just don't like us. That's okay. You don't have to. But to talk about there being no enlightenment human being because you have laundry Zen master, or anybody else who doesn't believe that you can cry and scream, cynic. Wow. So there's so many different people out there who don't know the staff of authority, because they don't notice that all their fields that are charged are all up and in the presence of anyone and through their message. So here's where I will share with you whenever I get irritated. You all know this. In fact, I know it. I know when I'm irritated, that's not my highest potential. I'm still mastering the physical plane as an Akashic record reader. So you know from the upper world that you don't have to give anything away. There's no sacrifice when you're doing Dharma. That 3D, 4D plane is sealed, closed, done deal. And when you rise above the ashes and you fly like an eagle, the heart of the sky, that's where we all, cosmos, Akash, source, infinity, consciousness, it's all the same. And we get to be love, life, and thunder. And the ones who don't have equanimity, they don't know what they're missing out. So when we're in our mui and our lovely biosphere, the circle of life, it's not actually anything to do with suffering. But of course, in nature, right, as a human, when I'm seeing what happens in nature, or when I'm hearing, I will be able to get sad, because a human has that secondary consciousness in addition to primary consciousness. I'm the one who's bringing forth more thought to a situation with more feelings. And so people who master their humanity, that's why they're overflowing, as the Sadhguru would share with us, with that divinity. So it means that you master compassion, you master it inside of you, and you're using an integrated brain. And so emotionally intelligent people are mentally intelligent. And then we have acceptance and respect. So somebody who wants to play out their unfinished business and do karma the rest of their life on earth, it's not our business. They will not, with the ascension energies, have breakthroughs because they will choose to commit to what ego finds familiar. The window of tolerance is diminished when people are using maladaptive patterns of behavior. It's also, furthermore, them using the dark sides of neuroplasticity. So shame winds itself on a continuum. You're going to get to see them as they flock to each other's cauldrons, pointing, not pointing, and choosing, simply put, whatever they think is right, and here's their cherry picking, and then whatever they think is wrong. And so, again, it's not quite impressive. The vision of those of us who are earth keepers is that the truth, anyone will be fine with it if they're an actual grown-up. Anyone who doesn't know how to talk about everything, who doesn't know how to read everything, who doesn't know how to have a good time with everything because they don't know how to actually intellectually exchange thoughts, they're not the truth. That's why the crow actually sounds, they don't like us. They don't like us, though, because we're not picking a side. And because they're like a moon and emotionally immature, when we're beating the drum of truth with our inner child alive, that means all people are loved equally. Nobody is better than anybody else. Here's your divine feminine. You won't have a jaguar ever be endangered. Did you know that? In the jungle, apparently. She masters the jungle or something like that. We're masters of our lower world. And we can witness ourselves when we get upset. Let's observe, witness, narrate. So you are the present. Your inner child is not afraid because you're your inner adult. And there are many paths to enlightenment. Some choose none. The hunters and the gatherers have always gotten along. We're not meant to not eat meat. Yes, eat meat. We're meant to treat every single bit of our earth and humanity with respect. So that which is fire breathes life. And that which is also light has that which is the illusion of that ego go behind. People who are emotional masters, they know how to use the prefrontal, so they're not dumbed down by their angry brain, which is what makes them fun to be around. While the ones who are ego, they get Dennis the Menace. Anyone? So as they grow up, they just stay Dennis the Menace to the ones who are inner masters. They pretend to be masters of themselves. You leave it alone because they're not self-led. Due to the fact that they didn't decide to get themselves healed, help themselves to become that which is emotionally in-depth, mentally in-depth person. I didn't know all the attachment trauma when I was 8, but I did know I was going to help people to live a good life. And so, 11:11, let me see if there's any other messages. While people who see what goes on from the perspective of the spiritual bypassers, I've seen them give people bigger roles than they needed to. And they like to give the low frequency people these roles as if we need them in order for humanity to evolve. So if you are in communion with all that is, it's more of like Thomas Campbell, the physicist, points out, I'm going to choose a mathematical equation over stories just because the mathematical equation represents that which is a very linear explanation. And as he knows, the left brain wants to know things. And as I know, my left brain likes to know things too. So like when I got the explanation of what a panic attack was, although I knew I was having Kundalini awakenings and I had all my twin flames going on and got all this telepathy, everything, I wasn't lost, I wasn't confused. I just knew my light body was expanding, and then I got rainbow body eventually. But the panic attack explanation from Therapy Nutshell Lady is what put my mind at ease, because my left brain finally had the answer. So left is the verbal, it's also the logical, but it's illogical and a dumbass when it's not working also with the sense of self. Because this is the part, it's going to think it knows everything and actually think that they're more experienced than academics who instead are more experienced than they are. So if you're a dumb teenager, because that's the only time I met teenagers that I thought, really? Then I got grown up and I just didn't realize how many emotionally immature people we would have. Now I have the knowledge. So when I meet dumbasses, I don't actually take their words and say, let me make fun of you. I don't want to argue with them because like with teenagers, I'm like, you don't know everything. And I don't regurgitate and I fuck it up. But also really like you don't know everything. So that's called effective realism. And so when someone thinks their feelings, no, they think they have no feelings. Effective realism. I was broken free from it by the time I got disowned. So when people, instead of breaking free from the illusion of their ego, in the way of being an ego and a self, they end up actually wanting to talk about intellect. A person that is a high priestess is not going to begin to, it's a somatic empath for science terms. So when you're maturely speaking a person who likes intellect, you're not going to speak to people who are actually not presenting to you something in an equanimous, discerning tone. They're upset, you're moody, and so anyways, you grow curious as you get older, or as you have fun with people because you like information. So for example, when that one dude, you know the stories, excuse me, you're confusing science spirituality, did that, I wasn't offended. I still am not, but when I'll tell the story, I'll make fun of it because the minute I said, no, I bring them together. I bring human, spiritual, and spirituality elements and sciences, quantum physics together. I'm a mystic. I do personal and spiritual growth. I'm a Reiki master. I'm a mystic too. I'm also a Reiki master. Okay, well, I know my man friends say I speak wrong, so let me try differently. So let me turn around and try to use better words, apparently. And, I'm not upset about it when even I'm telling people this because I understand. I don't care to use words the way you want to use them. I'm okay with somebody misunderstanding me trying to explain myself again, and if they still misunderstand, I'm okay with that. I don't need them to want to engage with me. Now, this is the part of where academics, whenever I have been in the settings, it was when I was in academia, so I knew how to handle that. And today I can tell you I'm not fond of the styles of left-brainers because they're really boring. They lack the vitality and life force and the curiosity of those of us who are interested in topics. They have feelings all over it, but they're a 0-8-year-old version of themselves, and the minute they begin to get in their hissy fit, their hearts are closed, their mouths are moving, you got to fool with the tool, let them speak. That way it gets off the chest, great. So I just saved myself a lot of headache, a lot of time, because I'm not even in a room with somebody who really wants to engage with me in the first place. I got a defense mechanism going on and a person who lacks intellect completely. Yep, they can, sure, spit out whatever you want. You're like a little machine for me. In that moment, an intellectual human being is going to be unfascinated by it because you are not a person that I'm talking to. You're simply a regurgitation of stereotypes, generalizations, all your books, all your dogma, everything you decided is real and true, and you want to use the word intelligent with me. And I'm presenting it to you all. So again, intelligence means you're flexible, adaptive, you're going to have a good time. Intellect means I might have a buffoon in front of me. I'll let them speak so that I can hear something interesting and then go have fun. Join us like-hearted people, because like-hearted means we have a good time. We don't get pissy, whether it's politics, religion, whatever the topic may be. We have a good time because we're actually curiously exploring it, bringing it together. There's one thing masculines do. It's not men. It's the left-brain people. Is slow everybody down because they begin to chime in, not in ways of contributing to the whole. It begins to sound like here's one group, here's another group, here's that group. It's like, okay, this is not competition. Nobody's going to lose. Everybody wins. There's no losers or winners, actually. Like, really, we're just socializing. So when people need to prove, you're going to spot it. So I've been making fun of the fact that I already knew there wasn't Lucifer. I guess I proved it. No, I didn't, but the scientists did. Okay, so the sweet revenge, I tease about that too, because if there is sweet revenge to be had, it was when I told, hey, humans are awesome. Leave them alone. And so, it's you. You have an issue with you. Inner masters of ourselves, the ones who want to be their self for real, they own the sense of self. The ones who have the biggest transformative experience and who are the brave boys and girls are all the ones who are healing and theys. And so what I love to see is those who have a deep appreciation for life. And on our portals, you always get to expand. There's never really any obstacles. You remember how Moana finds her way out of that tunnel? Or out of that cave, whatever. I'm not that ingenious, but the point is she spotted how to get. She succeeded because she did it. She also had, well, I'm not going to use all of her story because every story I ever use consistently makes it into, hold on for it, limitless possibility. So remember, it ain't how hard you hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Now, while as a kid, I loved that which was a low frequency, as I got older, I noticed that this was not really matching what my faith brought me with God, Jesus, and Holy Spirit. Because Jesus is the one who suffered for my sins. God doesn't treat me like shit. He never brings me more than what I can handle. And I actually am very blessed. I have a roof, I have loved ones. So like this doesn't make sense. So this that is, by the way, the distress, the low frequency of people who I see, they're growing older and older by the minute, and they continue to use superheroes and supervillains. And that's why that man that I made fun of with the Russian roulette, and I will keep making fun of him, meaning he's actually simply a teenage version of himself. I've met 20-year-old versions of this dude. I had a very interesting conversation with them, and as they're telling me about their dreams and exactly what is an action movie, I used to love all movies that were action, funny. Today, every time I'm watching anything, shame, shame, trauma, trauma, shame, shame. Like, I don't say it because otherwise I'd ruin it for everyone, but I'm like, yes, now they're cutting themselves. Okay, wow, now they're doing, okay, they're spreading rumors about narcissists again. Does anything do any kind of good? And people are like, Maria, we need entertainment. You don't understand. There's people who say, I know what the no, you don't. You just did entertainment. And I don't believe you. 3 years of my life don't matter shit. So when people are actually not being entertained, but they're taking information, and then they're not learning from scientists, and they're not joining the people, and they're saying, let's not go get bachelors. Let's not go get math. Let's be ignorant. We're still... This is where it's not about misinformation. A bunch of kids following a bunch of bad grown-ups who are emotionally mature who want to say entertainment is entertainment. It's not being used as entertainment. Then you get to hear journalists, by the way, very disappointing. What bleeds leads when I found out in school. And then I hear recently a journalist says, we're here to write stories. That's how we're going to educate you. No, that's not how you're going to educate me. That's why we got a bunch of people with a bunch of different stories, because they say this guy was a journalist. He knows what he's talking about. And it's like, okay, that's why we need Neil deGrasse. Again, I make fun of his talking down because sometimes I've heard him make fun of mystics, but I'm cool with him. I'm cool with him being the one who makes fun of me because I know he's the real deal. When I meet the morons, well, I'm cool with that too, but they're just idiotic. So science has a way that they'll replicate data, and anybody who's a scientist is going to continue staying in the field to make a difference. They can call out people, but the minute you're separating yourself from your peers and your colleagues and saying you know more than them, and you're starting to create other hypotheticals, you're joining the bandwagon of people who are now on one group. Instead, when you can mingle and tingle with everyone, and you can also chase each other down the hallways and continue to do it. Love you, Dr. Dan. And that's where he got chased down the hallways by I don't know who, but I'm like, wow, you're such a man. You're a man, Dr. Dan. Like, seriously, he stayed thanks to his partner. His partner is the one who got him to stay because he wanted to leave school. Because when you care about what you're doing and you see that the people that you work with don't, he did the hand model, and his story was that somebody's like, why are you teaching them that? The brain doesn't do it that way. I'm helping them to understand things. So I, for example, mix it all up, and like, you're giving bad information. I'm not actually teaching them. I'm mixing it up to help them see spirituality and science. They go together. Science proves no demons, which actually matches what Jesus said. The kingdom of God is within everyone. Also, we're all angels. See, God, I told them we're all angels. They're still not coming, God. Hey, Buddha, come on. Where's your future Buddha? We need the one who's not going to sit under a tree, because you're sitting under a tree isn't helping us right now. Okay, so that's the part of where the left brain needs to be talked to, but you don't talk sense to the left brainer of people who have egos that want their familiarity and that are in shame. And that's why it ain't how hard you hit, is how hard you can get hit, and keep moving forward. So people will see themselves on the floor kneeling every time life hits you. They're the ones who are doing bad resilience. They're not growing stronger because every time life hits you, you're looking at it with your temporal junctions and master, and your low frequency is going to keep you down and heavy and weighed down because you're not regulating in your ventral vagal. And so when ascension energies come about, the ones who have their non-metabolized trauma charges choose to do this thing. So in the movie, remember the kid? He says to him, you let someone put a finger in your ear and tell you no good. And then he gives him the whole speech, right? And then he does encourage the kid, but he found a shadow to blame. So he's also saying you found a shadow to blame. And that is where you will find any person who doesn't pick themselves up, start to learn how to anchor in ventral energy. You're going to find them using some kind of random narrative like that. It doesn't even have to be that one, which is why they don't grow up. They stay in shame, and I've seen it happen, and they stay with a story, and every time they get hit, they may rise from the ashes like a phoenix, but they're going to hit rock bottom again. And here's why they play up and down and merry-go-round, because they didn't learn self-regulation. All they're doing is sympathetic dorsal vagal is how I'm going to bring it to you. And so they're going to shut themselves in, armored at one point, and that's because that's how your body protects you, because see, you are, like a creature of habit. And that is why it is likely that unless you notice that you need help, you will not move beyond that which is the dark sides of neuroplasticity, because you already have those bad habits that protected you and kept you safe. And that now your ego's like, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do the diet, I don't want to do the diet. And then the panic attack, I'm going to die of sugar overload because I'm smart enough and I had enough panic attacks. I'm like, okay, that's hilarious. Are you done? And I was also hilariously laughing at myself because I care about Maria. I'm never going to treat her like shit. I'm doing a diet because it's my health. And I'm sharing with kids. Science works, but spirituality isn't fake either. So how about you respect all of it and then learn to differentiate and discern. The good scientists don't separate themselves from colleagues. The good, smart grown-ups don't tell you not to go to school. The good, smart anyones aren't going to isolate you, limit you to only their 10-20. And the minute that somebody's trying to say your brain can fall out of your asshole because they don't know how to read information, that's another one who just got egoic and in their hissy fit. Oh, wow, you just started to compete with another book. So impressive. No, that's what masculines are boring. Left brainers to me are boring. The minute they've limited it, it's instinctive. It's like, oh, there it is. Wow, you just got all upset at another book. I can't even believe you. If you tell people that, they don't understand. Because again, my friend, he's like, you're a hypocrite, Maria. Why? Because I called him a hypocrite. My facade friend. Because he doesn't keep his word. He doesn't do anything that he says he's going to do. And he said I was a hypocrite because I believe and say that this and that are true, which is true. And today, in the year 2025, thank goodness that we have smart scientists. So all those who are still here at this lovely 1111 portal, what I can tell you is those who do Dharma consistently expand to more. I noticed my cycle the first year around with my light body. By the second year, I was noticing it again. The third, I said, okay, enough following these stars because I don't need them. Fifth year, I'm like, get out of my fucking space. The people who are in my oversoul. I was then opened up to the lovely planet and then the cosmos. And that's how going with the flow. Neuroscientists explain selflessness, timelessness. Your body's like, where the fuck's Maria? Here's where potential panic attacks could come into the mix. Effortlessness and then richness. And so every time you're creating what is the mental fitness lifestyle of we can explore healthy thoughts, healthy feelings. Feelings come first. You're going to be in that sweat lodge, and it doesn't actually get scary because your thoughts aren't scary. You also don't trick yourself, so you don't do inner critic, outer critic. And that's why with our twin flames, we don't have a saga or a drama. Those who are empowered feminines. In the moment, a high priestess is what I've been calling this past couple days, will know that her oversoul is going to lead her exactly to where she will have wanted. It's not a woman. Your body speaks to you. If you're an empowered feminine. If you're an empowered masculine, then your brain speaks to you, which means that you will either have had a thought, a sentence, a visual, so something that you will have tangibly said, okay, this is my little building. I can see the structure. I can see it with the fine details. Okay, so because I'm a feminine, I have my own masculine, but I'm an empowered feminine. I followed the heart. 8-year-old said I'm going to help people. 45-year-old is doing it with the marketing, with the personal growth, spiritual growth, entrepreneurship, content, writing, all of it. Jack of all trades, multi, you name it. Put in all the words. I don't like using words. No, I like using words. I just don't like using a limited amount of them. And when you meet grown-ups who said, I met a grown-up like this, they say these things. You have to be able to explain what you do in a sentence. Otherwise, you're never going to succeed. And the minute that I heard the sentence, I was like, hanging out with kids that are younger than you, acting like you know everything, not successful at all. Let me think. Your advice will be taken into consideration. As for who is giving it to me, well, I mean, really, you are just as... So this is when you see people that look like the teenagers who you think are badass. When you grow to become a better teenager version of yourself, you're like, okay, the grown-ups were right about some things, and those are all very unsuccessful teenagers. They were also right that once they grow up, they don't actually all maximize anything. It's a very sad thing. I don't believe in stories having an ending, meaning they can always fix that, but they need to be the ones who make it happen. So if they don't want to, like my facade friend, they're going to commit to the mediocre version of themselves and say that they are doing life because it hit them so hard, and look how winning I am. I'm winning all the time. I get up, I rise from the ashes. There's the villain. And you think, okay, yep, you got a lot of villains, I see. You're the good guys. Yep. We do know who the good guys and gals are and theys. So anyone who has compassion is a somatic empath. The other ones they're good too, but they're not really always good. they change their mind. Sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're sad. No, there's so the drama kings and queens, they're hooked on distress. The pseudo live people, they're hooked on that. They don't actually notice they need help because, like Dr. Daniel Fox points out, narcissists or even maybe borderline. No, the narcissist, he was saying, it's like they have mustard on their chin, but they can't tell. Everybody else can see it, but they're like, nope, I don't have it. And then as they become more of a pathological liar, more and more and more, and their poor 3-year-old is in a cave, like completely not being able to come out, it's just sad. You see that 3-year-old seeping through every single inch of the withering away of them, and you think, okay, this is getting very much interesting, because there's only so many choice points people have until they will have committed to whatever their mediocre timeline was. Is either you will rise and then you achieve your highest timeline. That means something different for everyone, but above all, it will always mean this: your alignment, the embodied brain. So you are securely attached, non-traumatized. It takes a lot of work for the people who get there to get there. For some of us, it was easy. We're self-led. We didn't lose ourselves. And so that's why the high priestesses, we don't go shaming anyone. Those who are in communion with God also know what their role is. We don't go pointing fingers, because otherwise you didn't learn well what it was to not play God and to maintain humility. The ones who want to say that righteousness or shame is good, there's a healthy version of anything, but at the end of the day, who does for themselves does for three. As Socrates points out, let him who wants to change the world change himself first, or whatever the word is. And to me, it's if you don't know how to have integrity with compassion, morality, love, and recognize you have a subjective life experience, that means you don't live what everybody else does. And for you to want to cast a stone means your 3-year-old's in the room and your 14-month-old. Does it rule you? Because if it does, then I don't have an intelligent ego in front of me yet. I got one that has a leader. Well, who's your leader? Which side are you on? Tell me. Here's your list. This is your list of what is morality and integrity. I see. You have words. You realize that the list, I can bring another list in, right? Okay, so that's why the left brainers unimpressive again, because they will present you a list, and then others will present another list, and then we're going to continue with these lists while the empowered masculines know what we have to maintain that which is our systems. And so a system is like a structure, and that means it's like the skeleton, which is why science is awesome. So when the Thomas Campbell physicist with his law of everything was being interviewed, and he mentions we're all going to make sense of something in however many ways, but science is the one truth, is what I think he's trying to say, or this law of everything. Even though he's saying it very softly, he's not actually making it into a real deal. But again, those who have their theories and the way they're proving it, I don't know all about it, but I love that they're doing it. So as he points out, we all will make sense of something with whatever our brain will have come across. And so any smart person will know that, which is why if you're really smart, again, your ego and self grow together, which is why you also don't have areas where you would block your growth. Those who do not expand or ascend, they stay in their unhealthy fear comfort zones. They stay within shame, blame, fault, revenge, because they stay within the hard life, the hard hit, the suffering bit, like the temporal junction that the Zen master is using to cry himself to sleep, because he's thinking humans are shit, and so he's saying no one can be enlightened, while he's trying to give a conversation on watching out for charlatans. Which brings me to when someone said, well, isn't a guru a cult leader? No. And someone was like, yeah, otherwise religions are also cults. It's like, okay, let's go look it up. Guru, there we go. Here, enlightened ones, gurus will expand you, not isolate you. Very simple. So when you meet people who are confused of what a good leader is, it's the ones who didn't get to be seen. They didn't get to be soothed, safe, or secured. They don't know what a good leader is. A good leader is a good grown-up. A good grown-up will be able to listen to you consistently, soothe your nervous system consistently, not frighten you to death or ignore you. You have anger, you can let it out. You have fear, you let it out. You have sadness, you let it out. You do not get shamed for having surprise, happy, disgust. You do not get fooled. You do not get into, no, there's no perfect parents anywhere, but the people who are doing it right will, for example, the babysitter who scared my little twin and I when we were kids got fired because she used the syringe. In the meantime, I get to watch a mom record her kid as she's fucking with the kid in ways that are absurd, and I get to watch a poor human being completely what I'm like, wow, I don't know what's going to happen then. And it's not even what the person did. It was how they were then humiliating them and talking down to them while they're actually teasing them and recording it. And I'm thinking, what the fuck? You're completely not nice human being. I'm so happy there's therapists that are now handling emotionally immature parents with their kids, because watching that was completely upsetting. Yes, I laughed too, but I'm like, that's just wrong. The part of when they're beginning to, why are you making such a big deal? Because you're freaking them out the way you played this whole thing. So it's like very clear for a grown up who actually knows why the importance of emotions. 0 to 8 year olds are codependent. Not having them be able to be sensitive creates an issue with their capacity to cry in front of you, to get angry in front of people, to do anything with healthy emotions. So there's a very important part, those first 8 years of life, for the emotions to be able to come out. When I've seen people yell at their kids for being sensitive, trying to strengthen them, I began to get that once I got older. But as a kid, and I didn't get. I got all the hugs, and I got, it's going to be okay. I got to be able to be just a kid who was afraid and whiny. And then again, I'm a girl. I feel bad for boys. I really do. I'm happy I'm a girl. And somewhat why we all have it bad. Well, boys have it bad with the emotion stuff, like being cut off from your emotions completely. It's like, yeah, so I'm happy there's Terreal for the men. For women, I know that there's a lot of people that talk about body image, and sure, I can tell you it wasn't fun for me to be forced to go into locker rooms and do PE. Oh, guess what the grown-ups taught me, though? They're making us do PE because otherwise we won't want to always do physical activity. I'm like, so what, you think I'm a training monkey? Yeah, I'm not. I'm a human. They triggered completely my ego. Like, yep, I'm going to walk the mile the slowest possible. You know what? I'm going to run as slow as possible. I'm not going to run. You know what? I'm going to fail every single one of these little tests that you're giving me on purpose, just because the way you manipulated your words pisses me off. And they actually took away my 1 hour. Was that smart? No, but I was a teenager who said, if I want to do physical activity, I'll do it for myself. Not because you're making me do it every day. That's not how you are actually going to. So that's how ego responds to somebody treating us like little objects, by the way. So when somebody treats me like an object, I'm like, yeah, I ain't an object. I know what's happening here. And that's where every person will know of this. But if something is good for you, so like the diet, I don't want to do it. Okay, that's funny, haha. You laugh and you say, we're doing it because that's my health. And as a grown-up, what I can say is, as a teenager, I definitely know why I was reactive, if you will. And as a grown-up, I'm pretty sure there's still a relationship to that. I don't want to do it, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm smart enough to know that it's really good. Also, it feels great. So when you are moving your body, when you are doing the right things, your body is going to have a good everything. And the people who are doing the bright sides of neuroplasticity know it. But the people who are needing first, for example, Dr. Amy Pegan, that's important because, as she points out, some people could be doing a lot of different activities but still not actually the good resiliency kind. And with that, our lovely portal, it's a really amazing one. I actually hadn't even noticed it was 11:11 until after I did the short for today. So I'm happy that we got some messages and that you are all able to see where our lovely human species will go to. The ones who are still freaking out, I'm not really sure what's going to happen to them. We'll find out. It's too soon to say, but in the meantime, we can be entertained. And also, by the way, I actually want, all jokes aside, every voice matters, because every single bit of stories and things that they can bring to us have some validity, because the messages are always the same. So if you notice patterns, once you are clear of how to be this lovely high priestess I'm talking to you about, you'll notice 3D, 4D, 5D, all of us, just every person that is speaking something in regards to, again, at least the spiritual mystic community world. Scientists are looking into consciousness. I don't have enough of the background to know all of it. I just know a handful of people at this point. And that's because I'm focused more on supporting personal spiritual growth than getting involved in every single bit of that. But to be continued in the future. In the meantime, what I was trying to get to is we all will have gotten the same messages from that which is our lovely Akash and sphere, because that's how the cycles work. There's themes, specific ones. And so when you are master of yourself, you'll know what theme you're dealing with. When you're looking for breakthrough energy because you're not blocked, you want to be the best version of yourself, you're going to know what area you're going to be growing in next. It won't be something you're upset about, it's something you're excited about, because that's how it works when you are curious with all the emotions, because you were able to be all the emotional you, or you got to become all the emotional you. So now you're vulnerable, now you're courageous, now you're strong. Now you cry and you don't call it laundry, you get angry and you don't point some finger at someone, you don't think life's hitting you hard or any shit like that. There's no superhero, supervillain going on. You don't need monsters to be able to motivate yourself. You don't need it to be hard, because it's not hard. You breathe easy because life is easy. You're not a performer. You're not a circus act. You're not afraid to be rejected. You're not a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old. You're not a 1-year-old without yourself in the forefront. You're not afraid. I'm not afraid anymore. You're not afraid to be yourself. And here's our stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable high priestesses, which is why we will be quiet. It's not enabling people. It's let everyone live what they want to live. Accept, respect, and leave it alone. Ones who like to use the word enabler are codependent. Don't recognize what it means to be able to compassionately, with your own understanding and your own open heart, say, I know how to wield my nervous system and my embodied brain. Some people don't know how to wield their brain, so they don't know how to wield their nervous system. They don't know how to wield anything. They're not managers of anything. Their 14-month-old follows a leader, and their 3-year-old, 4-year-old is afraid still of rejection, and their teenager thinks they're a buffoon, like my facade friend. They're going to continue pretending to be alive, and there you go. Hey, pretender masters, doing great. Sayonara, see you later, alligator. That doesn't matter. But their life force is going to be, because their vitality is gone, because their adolescent essence is gone, because they never bothered to get their Shakti, their Purusha and Prakriti, their Shiva, Shakti, their feminine, Shakti, Purusha, no, Prakriti, the life force energy. All these different words to mean the embodied brain of yours. So your body is where your life force is. But if you are not lit by your own inner world, your fire, there's the passion of Christ, there's so many different ways I could bring it to you, but essentially I'll just say your heart, your gut, your brain, they're all like those main 3 brains. But if your heart is closed because you're always afraid of using it, because you're always afraid of getting hurt, because you're consistently afraid since you were not loved unconditionally with your flaws and imperfections, then it's going to be hard to love, because you still are afraid that you're going to be rejected for being who you are, which means you're going to hide yourself. And that means you're not going to be vulnerable, and it means you're not going to be yourself. And like my facade friend did, you're going to play nice, and playing nice means you're pretending. To those of us who don't play nice, but we're authentic, transparent, and aren't afraid of rejection, because what I think, say, and who I am, actions, whatever, as long as they're within the laws. I didn't realize that you were thinking you needed to approve of my behavior and my personality patterns and what I am bringing forth as a human being called, and use your name. And so that's why it's, okay, well, I guess I'll be leaving, because you made it clear that... So when it happens that some people will cancel you, you don't think you lost anything. That's called, okay, I guess we're not friends because you don't know how to be an open-minded person. And some people don't. And they'll say, you lack morality and integrity. And you will think nothing of it, because that's where the kettle calling the kettle black and that whole hypocrisy, a bunch of people just casting fucking stones. It's hilarious. No, yes, it is. I actually laugh at hypocrites all the time, because I met all of the best ones by the time I was 20. So... when it has happened before, I knew that it could happen. Society's judgment doesn't mean anything, because if it's immature people, that's why. If it's mature, they don't judge. They actually talk, and they have very good understanding in their brain of everything. Because they're compassionate and they're self-empowered, and so they do understand that everyone has a heart, they will be the most joyful to be around, because they can explain to you, okay, so here's the deal. Because blah, 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 and that's why you enlighten. So whenever you meet compassionate, authentic people, we all enlighten each other, because we actually are heart open, we know everybody is sensitive, and we know everybody is a person. And then we know those who are afraid of rejection, going to continue playing their pretend badass, and then we're going to leave it alone. They don't want to hang out with ventral energy people, because, wellness, again, it's a scribbly board. They think you can't always be happy. You know what? You're faking it. And they actually continue to think you're faking it. And they continue to suffer life. So sooner or later, they get tired of the chirpiness, because the chirpiness is an indication. No, because the bodies, they communicate to each other. And so it's okay, this is your highest potential. The other body knows this is the highest potential. You see what I'm saying? And that means that all the wounds are coming up, the unfinished business. So the unfinished business comes up. If they don't want to welcome themselves, be vulnerable, talk about it, open up, connect, all that great stuff, that's the part. So when someone says that God, Source, Akash is protecting us from energy vampires, there's no energy vampires. There's people who have unfinished business. And really, if there's one thing I can tell you as a 5D mystic who is a high priestess, it's the other way around. They are protected from us, because if you're self-empowered, you'll know the stare I'm talking about. It's a ventral vagal energy stance, and it's not the stare of shame. Stare of shame, those are people who are shaming each other. They were already treated like that. That stare means nothing to them. They were already expecting that. Actually, when a person tests kindness to the bejesus of it, and neutrality, because I'm hiding some sword behind my back, that's how it works when people are actually unsafe. They don't get the stare of shame, because we don't say shame on you, because we don't cast stones, we don't judge. Again, free will, you don't obstruct it. Empowered feminines know this. That's why we're not being tested. We're not testing the masculines. It's going to be okay. Are you really going to be bringing me this? Is this, so you want to talk about this? I really would love to talk about it, because you actually will. If at this point in my journey, way back when, it would be, okay, I'm talking, you're listening. Here's the deal, blah, 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 blah. Like I did with my facade friend. Sat him down for 2 days, lectured him. That meant nothing, but that didn't mean that I wouldn't have done it again in this one moment. I would have. So today, instead, I wouldn't. Today it would be like, okay, so hey, very softly and very happily and laughingly, well, you want to talk about all this beautiful, here's a handful of stuff. What do you want to talk about first? This one. How about this one? This one, you know what? At one point I thought that it would be nice to have a conversation, and then I found out there's no conversation. So once you will have met those who lost everything they were meant to be, I kid you not, it's like, okay, I'm going to have to do small talk, because I really don't know what else to do. Their ego's still there, I'm still there. But I'm radically accepting myself and what happened. And so with clarity, what I can tell you is it's really fun to have Oversoul, Twin Flames, all of it. But yeah, masculines are pretty boring, so it's a left brainers. Empowered masculines are fun. Empowered feminines, you can use the word divine, not divine. And in the meantime, welcome to all of our lovely 5D collective inner masters. 1111 portals, looking good. I can't wait for more. And as for 3D, 4D, I'm sure they're doing bountiful of entertainment and getting prepared for what's to come. As I know, we're going to see more of their stories and more of the future and the present. So thanks for stopping by. Have a wonderful 1111, and we'll see you again soon.